That seems fair to me.
Fairness isn't the issue with anything.
Well, if you don't know what fair is, you can't make a judgment on what fair is.
Unacceptable by any reason. You can't.
Welcome to Donnybrook, a freewheeling exercise with no holds barred. I'm Martin Duggan, and I want you to meet my cast of characters.
I consider Donnybrook more as a lark or an experiment, and Mark Vittert was confident we wouldn't last more than that first 13 weeks. In fact, he didn't think we'd make 13 weeks, but here we are. Some of the times that I've been mentioned in print in connection with Donnybrook, the writers will say, Duggan barked at this or that. Well, that's my job. Our good friend Vervis Jones, controller of the city of St. Louis, is back in the news. I've never resented criticism, really, because I've dished out quite a bit in my day.
Do you think it's time for Carl Officer to step aside as mayor of East St. Louis and admit that he's a failure?
I know we get criticized from some of our viewers, and correctly, that they think it's out of control at times.
If there's one, it's too many.
But I think that's healthy. It's a Donnybrook. The name of the show is not Patty Cake. It's not over the teacups.
It is all the same.
Ray. I never use words like, legacy applying to myself. But if we're getting to that point now, I like Donnybrook. I mean, as far as Channel 9 is concerned, Donnybrook to be my legacy, right?
Bon voyage, Martin.
Martin, don't go!
Don't forget to text.
Don't leave me with these guys.
Adios, Martin.
Please don't leave me with Ray. DonnyBLAST.
Are we on?
We're live.
All right. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's true. We're live from the Sheldon in Midtown St. Louis, right? St. Louis's favorite music hall. And we apologize to any of you who got your hair wet when the fire marshal sprayed the crowds trying to get inside. But you all know who's here tonight, and that means that we start, as usual, with lovely Wendy Weiss. Yeah. And Bill McClellan, columnist for the St. Louis Sports Press. Ray Hartman. Of St. Louis Magazine. And Charles Brennan. Host of Brennan in the Morning on KMOX Radio. And there's one person missing here tonight whom we dearly loved and who sends her regrets. Of course, I'm talking about Ann Keefe, the First Lady. The First Lady of Donnybrook. And Ann is unable to be with us because of a serious illness in her family, which she, of course, is conscientiously attending to. Now, the question I've been asked most often in recent weeks is, what are you going to do after you leave Donnybrook? And I think, well, that's a fairly interesting question, but I want to emphatically and categorically deny that I am going to be part of Antique Roadshow. Which Ray was lobbying for. No, actually, I've always, like most people, wanted to amount to something in life, and I've had loftier ambitions than being on Donnybrook. I've always wanted to be like Andre Rieu, the maestro, who's appeared at many pledge drives, of course, and actually some Channel 9 performances here in St. Louis. I met Andre on one occasion, and I said to him, Andre, I'd like to take over for you someday. And I said, with that wonderful flow of hair and the lace at your throat and the stick pin and all the, all that good stuff. And he shook his head and he said, Martin, he said, I think you should talk to Lawrence Welk. And I said, Andre, buddy, Lawrence Welk has been dead for 20 years. And Andre said, is that so? He's still on Channel 9.
That's great.
Yeah. So who knows? Bring me back in 20 years. See what shape I'm in. Well, let's get on with it here. Wendy Weiss, enough of this nonsense. And I'll go to Charles Brennan, who is our bridge expert. I don't mean the card game. I mean, Charles is our expert on all urban development, improvements. I've always said that Charles, apart from being the world's greatest radio personality of the male gender, right, is St. Louis's biggest booster. And he knows what's right and wrong for St. Louis. Now, when there's all this talk about building a new bridge across the Mississippi, Charles was for a footbridge. At least you said so, didn't you? Huh? Yeah. So what's all this nonsense about, it being over cost before they even break ground?
Well, we sent out the bids, and I'm talking about the Missouri Department of Transportation, and it was discovered that the bridge is going to be more expensive than the best engineers and constructors in the land can build. So we don't have the money for it at this time. And I actually am changing my views on this position because a long time ago, and actually not that long ago, I thought, well, this is a waste of money because traffic in the city of St. Louis over the last 15 years has actually decreased. There are fewer road miles in the city of St. Louis driven by motorists, and in fact throughout the whole area, and most of the traffic is not even near the downtown bridges. But I'm starting to soften up because I see all these construction companies that don't have any work in 2010 and 2011, and if we're going to spend some stimulus money, it may as well be something that can be used for the next 100 years or so. So I don't really think we need the bridge, but it'll at least provide some jobs for the Albericis of the world.
Well, Charles, when you first said that we didn't need the bridge, I thought you were really making some sense, and then I said, that can't be right.
It's Charlie.
So I violated a long-standing Donnybrook ban on research, and spoke to somebody at MoDOT, and there are actually good reasons, and I've never been a big MoDOT fan over the years, but there are good reasons for this bridge.
Oh, from MoDOT. Well, there's a good objective source. Fantastic. Well,
I didn't say okay. The first one is safety. According to MoDOT, and they do the numbers, there are 5 times as many accidents on the Poplar Street Bridge and the ramps and so forth leading up on both sides of the river because you have 3 interstate highways colliding into one bridge The second thing, and the safety would be enough. I happen to agree with you. Just traffic alone, which certainly matters to people in Illinois, wouldn't be enough of an issue. But you got safety, you got the fact that they don't have what you call redundancy, which means it's the only bridge we've got. So if something would happen to it, if a barge ran into it or a tornado knocked it down, or even if we had to close it to do many of the mini construction jobs that they have near it, there would be no other path for people to go across. And then the third thing is in Memphis and in Davenport, Iowa, they're doing this very thing. And if their interstates, which compete with Highway 70, east-west, have better economics to them, we are going to suffer a serious price economically. So I think you have to do the bridge, even though it's maybe not something that, you know, I was against the Page Avenue extension because it was just feed and sprawl. I think they've actually got a decent approach.
I'm afraid that we're going to do the bridge because Paul McKee wants a new bridge, right?
Exactly.
Well,
and Paul McKee wants the bridge to get off in a certain place, and for reasons that I cannot figure out, we're doing whatever Paul McKee wants us to do.
There's no doubt about it. If you listen to the traffic reports in the morning, you will frequently hear during the height of rush hour that the bridges are flowing freely. I'm not talking at 12 noon or 1 in the afternoon. I'm talking in the middle of rush hour. And I've done this for the past year just to see what's the traffic light like over the Poplar Street Bridge at 7:15 in the morning. Flowing freely into the city. Now that is not, I guess they sold Ray a bridge.
But Charlie,
So, well, that isn't hard to do.
but there had originally been talk of building this architectural masterpiece with gargoyles, and I mean,
That's what I favored. I favored that one.
You favored the one with the gargoyles.
I make it a wonder of the world, I said.
Somehow that doesn't surprise me.
Well, you sell me a bridge, you can sell him gargoyles. But I actually am sold on the safety and the economics.
Ray, the safety problems are at 44 near 6
No,
Flags.
I'll tell you,
What about
anybody
the 70s
if
south?
you drive east into St. Louis and you see all these highways coming together, I still can't figure out which way you come back from. People coming
Now,
from
Ray,
Illinois.
now that you
I can't
mention
figure it out.
okay, if safety is the issue,
It's one of the
then
issues.
funding should not be. Correct? But now MoDOT, your secret sources now, are saying, look, we need the bridge, but we don't have the money for it. Well, if human lives are at stake, why are they
That's
blocking
my point.
safety
Can
the
we
issue?
scale back our vision of the bridge? I mean, sort of a Walmart version of a bridge. I mean, wouldn't that be all right instead of gargoyles and architectural
That's what we're
digest?
getting.
I can't believe after all these years of trashing MoDOT, I'm going to be a spokesperson for them, but I will say this, that what they are saying, well, they aren't balking at anything. This is a deal that unfortunately there were only 2 bidders, okay? Now one of them on this part of the bridge, there were 2 bidders that they had. And one of them came in at like $229 million, and one of them came in at $275 million. And anytime you have a situation where they're $45 million apart on the same project, that's got to raise your eyebrows. Plus, they were both, 40 or 50 million above what all the planners thought it would be. I think they're just saying, wait a minute, we're getting hosed by these contractors, and they're trying to slow the process down.
All right, let's hold the phone here a moment. Meanwhile, there have been gripes about Highway 40, you know, which got rave reviews the day it opened. And, of course, they have a stretch of it named after our dear friend Jack Buck. I remember one of his famous remarks when Highway 40, you know, was something other than it is now, and traffic jams and so forth. And people would complain about 4 o'clock congestion. Jack Buck said, I've driven home at 4 o'clock in the morning many a time, and I didn't find any congestion. All right, Winnie Weiss, how's your health? Good, I can tell, radiant, in fact. But what about the health, so-called health care legislation? I must say that in my lifetime, and I'm a real, you know, political junkie, following all this stuff, I've never seen so much commotion going on, and even within one's own party. I think you check me out on this, I think that A, we're not going to get a health bill, and B, I think Senator Harry Reid is not going to be coming back to Washington next year. What do you think of that? So what's your thought?
I think that's entirely possible. I mean, when you have trouble getting the votes that you need and you are the majority in the Senate, then you've got a serious problem. I think that because of the fact that no one on Capitol Hill seems to have read it, no one seems to understand what's in it. Howard Dean and I are in agreement. I mean, that shows how far afield this health care legislation is. If Howard Dean and I are in lockstep, they need, where's the fire, I guess is my question. You have tens of millions of people who are uninsured. If you tweak the bill, if you fine-tune the bill, if you try to bring more people on board instead of ramming it through before the end of the year just to have a political victory, I think a lot more people will be better served.
Wendy, you know, I've written and said that I think this is too important for Congress, that you can't trust Congress with it.
Then why do we send that bill?
But I think, you know, I mean, I think we ought to have a task force that the insurance companies can't buy, and they can buy Congress, and they've been doing it. But on the other hand, this thing about ramming it through Congress and people haven't read it, people hardly read any bills. I mean, we have a tax code that's like 21,000 pages, and I don't hear anybody saying, you've never read the tax code. I mean, they're trying to get something, and the idea is incremental change. Get a little bit, and people will find out that there aren't death panels, and it's not awful. I mean, I think we have to do something.
I think that incremental change would be great, but I think on the heels of the troubled asset relief program, I mean, you have the TARP funds, you still have the Wall Street barons who are making their billions and millions of dollars in bonuses. I mean, wow, that was a harsh lesson learned. You've got the car companies being bailed out. I think that's why when you're talking about something that is going to cost this much money for as long as this is going to be costing the taxpayers money, I think that's why you've got so many reluctant people.
It has to be a referendum on the insurance companies. If you want your giant health insurance companies to continue to make hundreds of billions or trillions of dollars, whatever they make, adding nothing to the healthcare system, standing between you and your doctor, then the status quo, I guess, makes sense. President Obama, who's frankly, the Democrats on this have demonstrated Will Rogers' famous old line about not being a member of an organized party. He's a Democrat. And the Democrats have been, no question, politically torn asunder. And as Bill points out, many of them, particularly the centrist ones, have just been flat out bought and paid for. I don't know what you call Joe Lieberman anymore, but it's not a Democrat and it's not a serious public servant. What you've got here is a situation where we have to change the status quo. One company I'm involved in, we just got to pay our bills on time, don't have a big, without explanation. Our health insurance is going up 16% next year. It's the kind of stuff that President Obama is talking about. The status quo is not acceptable. Now, I agree that nobody's got a magic, silver bullet answer for this thing, but anything that moves somewhat incrementally progress, I think makes sense. Howard Dean and others are trying to get something that is frankly not going to happen.
We'll move on. Incrementally or any other way, right? All right. Well, McClellan, it appears to me that the St. Louis Cardinals could use a chapter of Alcoholics Anonymous. What's going on?
Well, it's like they don't have batting averages anymore. They have blood alcohol content. They're bringing up a kid who hits 232. I thought that. No, I kind of feel sorry for that young man. I mean, he's 26 years old and a little irresponsible, obviously, which comes with being 26 years old. And his timing is so awful. I mean, just as the newspaper's running a huge series on DWI and the governor has a task force, and we say, let's get anybody over 1.5, along comes David Freese. I mean.
I don't feel sorry for him. I mean, he's a grown man. He was 50% above the blood alcohol level of Josh Hancock.
That's what we talked about last week, is being blind, remember?
And I'm the one who wants heavier penalties for 1.5 and over.
Yeah. And he was 50% higher than Josh Hancock. He was 20% higher than Leonard Little's blood alcohol content when he killed that woman in South County tragically 10 or 12 years ago. And a lot of people, it'll be interesting to see the people that have been Leonard Little haters for a long time, how they would react to David Freese being where I think he will be, which is at third base for the Cardinals next spring. And the real tragedy of this situation to me, thankfully nobody was hurt in this particular case, but is that we are not serious about punishing this. Bill made a point last week, and we disagreed a little bit, but I think that somebody on a first offense that does .23 should at the minimum lose their driver's license for years. And that will not happen to David Freese, and it's not just because he's a celebrity, it's because we don't take it seriously. And we never really, it's amazing, you talk to lawyers, he could have a third offender, I think, only loses their license for a year or two. It's just ridiculous that we don't take this crime seriously.
Well, I mean, we were in such...
Did you out there ever think that the former owner of the Riverfront Times would be such a law and order man? All right. Anyways, hey, it's getting close to, we're running out of time here, you might say. And this is our year-ender, right?
Right.
It's my getaway. And we normally pick a person of the year from the St. Louis community. And I'm going to give you that opportunity. Do you have a person in mind?
Actually, yeah, I do. I'm going to go way out on a limb, a really controversial choice, and I'm going to nominate Martin Duggan as person of the year.
Wendy, that's ridiculous. How can you say something like that? What has he done? What are you talking about?
That's ridiculous.
Oh, that's too much. That was not rigged.
They can keep Ben Bernanke.
All right,
We want Martin Duggan.
We'll have to reject that. And no recounts. All right, Bill McClellan, give us somebody.
Well, I would go with David Farr, the CEO of Emerson Electric, who just was so upfront about his ideas about America when he talked about taking business to the so-called best cost countries, and because it's too expensive here. And here's a guy who made $12.6 million last year. For somebody like me who's always fighting the class warfare, it's great to see somebody just come out like that and say, here I am. And so I say David Farr.
All right, Ray Hartman.
What's the guy's name I was going to pick? Fisher? What's his first name?
Peter.
Peter. The reason I did that, I know. I had to Google this one.
You're not our first.
I had to Google this. No, I had to Google his name. Just kidding.
Who is he?
M. Peter Fisher. He's a philanthropist, and he's given a ton of money, almost always anonymously, to good causes. He finally came out and got the St. Louis Award this year for his work, his foundation's work with the Gateway Garden, as it's called?
City Garden.
City Garden. City Garden. I don't even know the name. And the fact is that he is anonymous. I did know his name, but only when I looked it up. And there are a lot of good people in this town, and I think he symbolizes them, who give and don't do it for public relations purposes and don't do it for anything but for good philanthropy. And so he's my man of the year.
All right. Charlie Bennett.
Well, I don't always agree with him, but, he did come in under budget and on time, and I think Pete Ron from MoDOT has to deserve some credit for that. After all, I mean, how many public servants can claim that? And in addition to the highway, which was completed under budget, significantly under budget, I think the commotion surrounding it was a lot less than we all predicted. So I have to give him credit.
Very kind. Thank you all.
This is not a local person of the year, and I'm not sure if this will be a man or a woman, but I'd like to go ahead and nominate for next year whoever represents Mrs. Tiger Woods in court.
Yeah.
That's got to be. That's going to be.
All right. Well, I have one. Okay. And my person of the year is a great Donnybrooker who is celebrating his 95th birthday today. And he never misses a show. He'd be here with us tonight if his health were better. And I'm talking about Father William Barnaby Faherty of St. Louis. You're right. He's a buddy of all of ours, right, Bill?
Yes, he is.
We've enjoyed a drink with Father Faherty at Jesuit Hall, as a matter of fact.
Indeed we have,
right?
Martin. Indeed we have.
And he had us all over there one night because he and his confreres enjoy Donnybrook so much. And I have a co-honoree also, and that is Mrs. Genevieve Dearberg, a Donnybrooker, who is celebrating her 104th birthday today.
Wow.
Martin, these were both students of yours, were they?
I've said on this show many a time that I thought my next career stop would be a bagger at Dearberg's, and maybe Genevieve will put in a good word for me after that little salute. But I think it's just wonderful, isn't it, that people are enjoying life at that age. Wendy, you know, we talked last week about the desirability or undesirability of suspected terrorists being transferred from Guantanamo Bay to a prison in northern Illinois and Thompson, Illinois. Now, this prison already exists, and it happens that Senator, what's the name of that senator I don't like over in Illinois?
Durbin?
Dick Durbin?
Yeah,
Dick Durbin.
the senator I don't like, and the governor of Illinois have said this will bring 3,000 jobs to Illinois. And I did a little math on this. They're talking about transferring 100 prisoners, right? 3,000 employees. The prison's already there. So it's not a construction deal. This means that each prisoner would have more personal attendants than the people who buy into Sandy McDonald's luxury utopia ship, right?
Yeah.
Good job.
It's going to float around the world with the size of mansions aboard the ship. So it doesn't make, well, it sounds like good democratic planning to me. I might also note that the prison is located in a town called Thompson. It so happens that Governor Jim Thompson is the only governor of Illinois who's not already in prison. We got a great viewership on our neighboring state. I hope we haven't lost any of you tonight. If so, I apologize. Ray Hartman, here's something that puzzles me. Missouri University, your alma mater, is in the Big 12 Conference. They're talking now about possibility of Missouri University moving to what is now the Big 10, which would expand to a Big 12. If Mizzou goes from the Big 12 to the Big, what's it going to be, Big 11?
Well, you obviously don't understand how this works. There's already 11 teams in the Big 10. There are. And the funniest part of this story is when the chancellor of the University of Missouri-Columbia, my alma mater, said, "This has got to be right for us academically." Academically? Sounds like something Sarah Palin would have. I mean, are you serious? Academically? I mean, there may be 1,000 considerations, but 999 of them and a half have to do with the almighty dollar. And college athletics is not about college, it's about money. And you know, I'm a loyal fan, but
now,
any pretense that this decision is made for any reason but money,
that's
forget
enough
it.
out of you. Let's move on to something else.
Yeah.
Now,
Good practice.
You know, we have spent a half hour on the issues of the day. And we have a packed crowd here for a reason, and that is we have about a half hour to talk Martin out of this crazy retirement plan.
Aren't you glad to see we've got somebody in charge?
Yeah. Hey, hardly. You know, Martin, I got to tell you, before the program tonight, I ran into your friend, Sister Carol, and she said, good luck on your new provocateurship. She said, I'm praying a novena for you. So,
all right. Hey, let's give a big round to our new provocateur.
Hey, thank you very much. What I want to do, everybody here at the Sheldon, please take a look at the monitor. Those of you at home, sit back and take a look at the one and only Martin Duggan.
Martin Duggan, Donnybrook's founder and provocateur, is, as he puts it, blasting off after 23 years. Since his announcement, he has been written about, toasted, and honored. In October, he received a proclamation by the St. Louis Board of Aldermen, and it was clear his relationship with this city is a personal one.
The proudest claim I have is that I was born in the city of St. Louis, and I can tell you where. I was born in a 4-family flat at 3214 Michigan Avenue.
Martin grew up in South St. Louis and began his formal education back in 1925.
My mother brought my sister, Geraldine, over to Holy Family School to enroll her in 1st grade and brought me along, of course. And I remember the nun, Sister Hilaria, her name was. She said to my mother, oh, and here's a fine big boy for kindergarten. So I nudged my mother, hey, I'm only 4 years old. And my mother gave me the elbow and said, fine, when does he start? It started that afternoon, see?
Soon after, the Depression hit. It hit the country, the city, and the Duggan home.
My dad was out of work for long stretches. He was a printing pressman. And business, you talk about, today's economy, boy, that so-called Great Depression was really demoralizing for people. I can still see the look on my dad's face. Supper time, no job. We never used the word poor, just out of work, which was different.
Martin may have grown up in the Depression, but he struck it rich when he met the love of his life, May Mosier.
I was good friends with his sister.
My sister used to say what a wonderful, right girl that May Mosier was. So when I heard that May was visiting Geraldine that day, I decided, to be what I thought was a gracious host.
And so every once in a while, Martin would come in with his apron on and bring me banana splits, ice cream, sodas. And I thought, gee, this kid is quite an operator,
Bear in mind now, I was 14 years old, right?
He was very dignified.
A daily newspaper is more than reporters. It's pressmen, linotype operators, engravers, and ad takers, and a lot more. But the heart is the news content.
Martin began his career at the St. Louis Globe-Democrat the summer after his freshman year of college.
First job was very low level in the Sunday feature department. Very tame, no news involved. I handled syndicated material like gardens and stamps and dogs.
The managing editor of the Globe offered Martin a full-time job a year before his graduation, and it was an offer he couldn't refuse.
I was in love with May, but we were not engaged as yet. And he said, could you get married on $45 a week? And my instant reply was, Mr. Burroughs, I could do anything on $45 a week. May took pity on me.
He was just in terrible. I thought he wants to ask me to marry him. And
So I think she answered yes for her.
But it wasn't that easy. I decided, so I went 3 days in a row to church, and I prayed, and I looked at his resume.
I don't remember submitting a resume.
Geraldine, your sister, told me all about you, see? So I went over it. For 3 days I prayed, and I looked at the resume. I thought, he's okay.
So on a Tuesday in May 1942, Martin married his lovely wife, May. They started a family, and after Martin served in the Marines during World War II, he continued at the Globe Democrat for the next 45 years.
Working on a newspaper, it really was fun. Bill McClellan and I have a saying, you know, being on a newspaper beats working for a living. Although it was very demanding. We worked long hours. May can tell you that.
You know it.
Through the years, Martin has been recognized and criticized. He's been a booster of the city and one of the first to point out its flaws. And he's had no better platform to do it than Donnybrook.
You're back on Donnybrook on Thursday evening, September 18th. We have. Well, I mean, you know, it's pretty clear. I think that I love everybody on this show.
But there's no one on this earth Martin adores more than his lovely wife. This May, they'll be celebrating 68 years of marriage.
There's nothing in the world compared to a happy marriage, in my view, and being married to May is all I ever wanted in life.
Oh, that's cute. The same with me.
Can we show May? May Duggan is in the front row with us tonight. May, do you want to stand up and say hello? Ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. May Duggan, everybody. You know, one of the easiest phone calls I ever made, one of the happiest ones, after we went to Humphrey's one night after the show, we all agreed that wasn't news, but we all agreed that there was one obvious choice to join us on the panel starting in 2011. And ladies and gentlemen, he's been the sixth man off the bench for I don't know how many years, Martin. Ladies and gentlemen, Alvin Reed is with us. Oh, 2010. Thanks. It's 2010, yes.
I thought we were going on one of those HBO hiatus. I thought, wow, a year off.
You know, I could be like J.C. Corcoran and just not do nothing and get paid for a year if you want to do that. You know. I'm so overwhelmed. I'm really like, as I told my wife I'm going to be speechless. She said, that's never happened in your life. And that's really how I am. And, you know, we've talked about so many things, but I don't think, Martin, I did not know that your dad was a pressman. My late father was a pressman and was a printer. Right. And
my dad was too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I didn't know that. And then also, my newest gig, I guess you would say, is I'm with GlobeDemocrat.com. And just the fact that I am working under the standard that you helped set, I think it's just an honor. And maybe that's why I'm sitting on this stage right now, because that's how things were supposed to be. Yeah. So let me tell you what, I am honored and I'm blessed, and I feel like crying right now.
Until I watched the film, I never knew that you were Catholic.
That's good.
You never mentioned
All right. Everybody, we want to go back to your roots here a little bit, Martin. I'm talking 23 years ago. This program actually started in someone's kitchen, and he's with us tonight with his lovely wife, Carol, one of the founders of Donnybrook. Ladies and gentlemen, a nice St. Louis welcome for Mr. Mark Vittert.
Hello, sir.
Yeah. Mark, maybe you can tell us a little bit about those early moments with the Donnybrook crew.
Well, around a breakfast table at Coco's, where Rich Coster, and I and Martin would have breakfast about once every couple weeks. Martin had the idea, he said, wouldn't it be great to have a television show where we could really thrash through some of the ideas and issues that are facing our community, just like every other community. And he said, let's kind of pattern it after the best we can, like McLaughlin was sort of the pattern.
Yeah, right.
So Rich, it was Martin's idea and vision, and Rich was wonderful at helping Martin figure that out. And we went over to our dining room, and Carol was up there, was our Cecil B. DeMille, and got her little video camera, and we're around our dining room table. And I was charged with the mission of taking it over to Channel 9 to see Hargrove. Oh, there's Mike, who was really our patron saint. And I went over to see Mike Hargrove to sell this idea, and Hargrove said, this is terrible. He said, this is terrible. Why don't you guys try it again? I said, okay. So this time we went to a bank boardroom. I thought, that's the way I think. I obviously screwed up. I said, well, we'll go to a bank boardroom. That'll look more official. So we went to bank. Carol was the camera person again. And we did it again, and I took it back to Hargrove. He said, this is worse than the first one. So anyway, to make it short, Mike gave us a chance in the studio, and then the fact that Mike took this chance on us was really commendable, and Mike Hargrove deserves a great deal of credit. He really Hey, Mike. And Mark, we want to recognize one of the great guys who started this program, Rich Coster, who was a good friend of yours, and Martin, and Bill, and Ray, and talk a little bit about Rich. Thanks, Charlie. Yeah, Rich was somebody who we miss very, very much. Rich was, at the very beginning, one of the founders of Donnybrook, a brilliant, insightful, and as intellectually honest a man as there's ever been. And Rich was a wonderful man. And he died unexpectedly, suddenly, in 1994 in July. We miss him very much. And Rich left 4 wonderful sons, Matthew, Mark, Christopher, and Patrick, 2 of whom are here tonight. I see Matthew and I see Christopher, who is now our Attorney General of the state of Missouri, and I can't tell you how proud your dad would be of both of you. We're about to have a clip that's been put together of some of the things that Rich said about the chief over here, and I can't wait to see it. And Christopher, if you could, right when that clip ends, if you could come down and join us, it'd be great. Thanks.
Hey, let's hear it for
Get away.
Liz.
I don't think that you could do as many shows as we've done and say the things that we've said and not like the people, because it just would end. People, I think, understand that these 5 people are friends, or these 6 people are friends, that the things I say to Hartman or Duggan says to Hartman or I say to Vittert or McClellan would be insults if you weren't friends, but because it's kind of a playground fraternity, it's taken in the way it's given, and nobody walks off the set angry ever. Everything with Martin stems from his conservative Catholic education and background. I mean, that's really what Martin Duggan is about. If you said one word, Martin Duggan, he's Catholic.
Mark, is there a second clip that we're supposed to look at? Do we know?
I don't.
Okay, that's it. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, also with us on stage, the son of Rich and now the Attorney General for the great state of Missouri, Chris Coster.
Hey, Chris. How you doing? Good to have you with us.
Thank you. It's good to be here. And you all gave my dad an incredible gift. These were some of the best, very best years of his life, and he loved everybody on this stage.
Well, I know he spoke very highly of your dad. You guys were, your dad and this crew, probably too difficult for you guys to put into words, but you guys were, as television chemistry, it didn't get any better. I know it got pretty raucous at times. It was only like wrestling without the tights, you know? But afterwards, how many bars did you guys actually go to through the years? I mean, that's the whole thing. I mean, with the Donnybrook crew, there was Krieger's, there was Bernie Federko's, there was, how many others? King Louie's. How many of these have you closed down?
Yeah. Well, Bill was our leader in that.
Yeah. Well, Rich Coster was, as Mark said, just a wonderful human being and intellectually honest. I think it's a great way to put it. He was also one of the great gym fighters of all time in the sense that in the production meeting, a lot of times our production meeting was much more interesting than the show. Because Martin would go to Rich and say, we would try to figure out what topics we agreed upon or disagreed, and Rich was famous among us for going, I'll tell you on the set. And it was this classic, he was this wonderful person to ever meet, but he was always holding that over our heads.
Your dad would be happy to know that Ray has borrowed that page from the book, and he's always the one now that says, I'll tell you on the set.
Dad spent many years trying to instill his wisdom in Ray.
Didn't work. You can't win them all, right? You can't win them all.
Should we point out that the room we meet in is the Rich Coster room?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is the Rich Coster.
Chris, so good to have you with us.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
a lot.
You for all this
Chris Coster, everybody. You know, Martin Duggan has meant so much to this community. We recently went out with a microphone and learned out exactly just how much. You ever watch Donnybrook?
Sure, I watch Donnybrook.
Well,
I watch it every time. I never miss Donnybrook.
Tell us your impressions of Martin Duggan.
Martin is just so unique, and the show's going to be not the same without him.
Who would take his place?
Some guy by the name of Charlie Brennan.
No kidding. Now, who's he?
Can you do a Martin Duggan impression?
Ray, that's enough out of you. Move on to something else.
What do you think of Martin Duggan retiring?
Oh, I think it's too bad, but good for him. Go for it. Tell him to come and join us in our activism.
You know, we admire him, he and his wife both, because they're both very, very good people. Good for St. Louis. It'll be sad to see him leave.
Martin Duggan is just a St. Louis icon. He represents everything that's wonderful about the city. I mean, he's kind, he's generous, he's strongly opinionated. He does occasionally let people finish a thought, unlike some other radio personalities that we know.
Martin, we're going to miss you, dude. You're great fun, great person. Love you, man.
I got to believe you're going to miss Martin's bar tab.
Always going to miss Martin's bar tab. There you go, sir. Great. Very easy. It's nice to know exactly what he's getting. It's a cheeseburger and a Chardonnay.
Hey, Martin, I have been with this show since the beginning, off and on through the years, so I want to thank you for a great time, and that'll be enough out of you.
We love you, Martin.
Hey, we'd like to welcome someone who's been giving so much to this program the past couple of years. She's a great columnist. You read her work in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, and we're always glad to see her on Donnybrook, Colleen Carroll Campbell. This is going to be a moment for the Kleenex crowd, because we're going to go around and kind of talk about Martin as we knew him, starting with, well, the guy you used to square off with on KMOX and Channel 2, and you guys have been battling each other for 23 years on Channel 9, Ray Hartman.
Martin Duggan is an American original.
How far back does that go?
He's also one of the original Americans. And it's hard to argue about light rail and Highway 40 issues with a guy who rode the stagecoach and editorialized against building the streetcars. But I use that old joke, bad old joke, for a reason, and that is to say one thing, and I think everybody on our panel knows this. Martin Duggan is as young at heart as anyone in this auditorium or in the Donnybrook audience. And Martin isn't young, Martin isn't old at all. As I say, he's not old at all. He's old school, and he's old-fashioned in one very important way, in an old-fashioned sense that should never go out of style, and that is in his character. If you had one word to describe Martin Duggan, my word for him would be he's a gentleman. And I mean that. He's a gentleman in how he carries himself, in his civility, in his language, in his strength of character, and his decency. And it's been such an honor, really, to be working for you for the last 23 years and sparring with you. But, you know, my fear for most of this time was that he would come around to my way of thinking and it would mess up our act. That didn't happen. That didn't happen. But let me tell you, no one has ever had a better friend than Martin Duggan. And all I can say is thank you and bon voyage.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Nice job, Ray.
Joe McClellan. Well, Martin Duggan was a great newspaper man, but in some ways I think he was meant for television and meant for the stage. I remember one story he told me about, he's cool under fire. He never gets rattled. One story he told me about being an altar boy who was in the quiet of the church during a service, and Martin lit some candles and his vestment caught on fire. And he wasn't sure what to do, so he just kind of stood there, calm and collected. And in the quiet of the church, one of the other altar boys finally said, "Jesus Christ, Duggan, you're on fire." And Martin very calmly just walked off the altar and put out the fire. And he later told me that they made him pay for that vestment. But he remained a good Catholic, and as Ray said, a better friend you cannot have.
I know everyone's talking about Martin tonight and Donnybrook. I actually think his greatest contribution is the promotion of fish fries. I mean, who's done more for those fried cod sandwiches for the last 20 years than Martin Duggan? And people always talk about Martin as the broadcaster of the Donnybrook and the guy with the Globe Democrat, but I really think I've gotten to know you and your family, May and Mary and Joe and Pat and all the others. I really think your greatest claim is your family and what you've done in the Duggan household. So it's just been a great lesson for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charlie.
Take it away.
I think I first came on Donnybrook about 10 years ago. Martin was worried I'd be too shy to speak my mind, so I've kind of tried to work on that. But thank you for that. He's been a great mentor to a lot of young journalists. I think that's something a lot of people don't know. But in terms of Martin's qualities, I would just say his joy is just really something that stands out to me. Someone asked me a few weeks ago, "Oh, you're on Donnybrook. What's Martin Duggan like? Is he the same kind of guy off camera?" And I said, he's even nicer, even more joyful. He's just one of those rare people who's the same guy in every setting, and in every setting, really a true man of joy. So it's been a pleasure, Martin.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Kelly.
Nice job. Very nice. Nice to
Alvin Reed.
Well, it's easy for me to always remember how long I've been on Donnybrook because I was on a week after my second daughter was born, Blaine, and the second time I was on was the Thursday night before Blaine was going to have a surgery at St. John Hospital. It was not, emergency surgery, anything like that. And Martin, had, just like we said, we talked about it. And later he told me, he said, like, well, we said a prayer for your daughter, and I made sure we did that at church. And I was thinking, like, Martin Duggan has known me for about 5 minutes, but yet he went to his church and had his congregation say a prayer for my family. That's the kind of person that Martin Duggan is. And I mean, I didn't know that, and just like you said, Colleen, everybody asked, like, what is he like? He seems so mean. And I said, like, he's not. He's the most gentle man you'd ever want to meet in the world. He has conviction, and he has honor, and he has so many things that are being lost in American society right now, and it doesn't matter what party you're in or what you believe or all that political argument. If we live our lives like Martin Duggan lived his life and lives his life, we would all be better off. So God bless him, and I'm honored to be on this program.
Well, it's Wendy's turn. Do you want to interrupt? It is a Donnybrook tradition.
Heavens no. I want to hear from my darling Wendy.
Well, I know that you don't think that that I'm smart enough to put 2 and 2 together, but
right.
I do realize that the decision, many of you don't realize that we talked Martin out of retiring last year. He was ready to retire last year, and we wouldn't hear of it. And we told him, we said, no, you're not ready, you're not ready. And he allowed us to talk him out of it. But it was kind of funny timing. Long about the time I started driving Martin to Donnybrook, that was the time that he decided he was going to retire. He's been a witness, and what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But I know he'll never speak out of school. But Martin, I couldn't begin to put into words what you mean to me, and how sweet this opportunity has been in my life. And I remember the first time you and Ray walked into that studio at KMOX, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be brutal. These two can't stand each other. Well, it took about 20 seconds from the time you two walked in the room to see that you two were the very best of friends. And I was asked to come into Donnybrook in the long line of women who have loved you, in addition to May, the great Ann Keefe, the great Ann Keefe. All right, Tiger. All right, Tiger. The great Ann Keefe, the great Nan Wyatt. Right. And so I was so happy and so honored that you invited me to be part of your clubhouse. But I want to share a story with everybody. When people ask me what Martin Duggan is like, and I talk about his sense of humor, he told me one time that he and May were married, and literally 9 months to the day after they were married, their oldest son was born. And he said, you know, May's brother said to me, geez, Martin, couldn't you let her take her hat off? That's Martin Duggan. That's Martin Duggan. That's Martin Duggan. And wait, one last thing.
All right.
The thing that you mean most to all of us, the thing that means most to all of us is your friendship. And that's not going to end. That will never end.
No.
Never end.
Of course not. All right.
Love you.
Well, in fairness, come here.
Hey, Wendy has a little something she's going to do that you're going to see if you watch the program in the future.
Because you will always be with us, physically and spiritually. We're still going to have our production meetings.
Yeah.
Over there, Mark.
All right.
All right.
Thank you very much. My heavens.
Done well.
Martin,
yes.
It's not your turn yet, but just hang on a second.
Getting close?
Mark didn't fly in here for nothing.
All right.
Well, he's got something he'd like to share with you.
Well, thank you.
In honor and recognition of Martin Duggan's values and the constructive nature of Donnybrook through his vision and leadership, the following has been established. Details will follow on Channel 9's website as the year turns. The Martin Duggan Donnybrook Honor has been established to recognize an individual or an institution which has clearly demonstrated the values so fundamental to Martin Duggan and in which he sought for almost a quarter of a century through Donnybrook to advance within our St. Louis region. A sincere sense of civility and decency in both discourse and judgment are the hallmarks of Martin Duggan, and those to which this honor will be so dedicated. We all know that Ann Keefe is not able to be with us tonight, and I can tell you that all of our hearts and our thoughts are with her. But we know that Ann is watching tonight. Bill and I had lunch with her today, and she promised she'd watch to the end of the show. And Ann, we'd like to let you know, and everyone watching, that your name will be the first to grace this honor. Ann has offered her entire career the unheralded effort of simply helping others exchange thoughts and opinions deliberately and civilly. She has helped many of us thrash through the most difficult problems facing our community, just like many others. Ann will be the first, and she will be the last Donnybrook participant to ever be eligible for this honor. There is but only one Ann Keefe. Congratulations, Ann. And most of all, congratulations to you, Martin. And may your name and values last a very, very long time, through a lifetime of great works and through this dedicated honor. Congratulations, Martin.
Thank you, Martin.
Yes, Martin, it's your turn.
Hey, I'm on your turn. How about that? All right, since it's my turn, I'm going to make a few acknowledgments with your permission. And the first one is to Mark's lovely wife, Carol, who's very modestly sitting out there. And we tried to get her up here. She was our producer and first camera person, right? And without Carol, there'd be no Donnybrook. So God love you, Carol Ritter. And since Wendy had brought us back to our wedding day, I think May and I should pay a little homage to number one son, who happens to be that first starter. That's Patrick Duggan. And our daughter, Mary Duggan Leahy. How about that? There's all kinds of people here who deserve recognition, and you'll forgive me, since time doesn't permit to name all of you. Emery Berger, who produced this masterpiece tonight. You met Jack Elmish at the early in the evening, of course, the CEO of Channel 9. We're so grateful to you, Jack, for making this possible, for bearing with us all these years. His lovely wife, Rosemary. And Mike Hardgrove, who was acknowledged earlier, but from my heart, I want to thank Mike for giving us our start and having confidence in us. You know, we owe this all to Channel 9. And it seems to me that if Channel 9, first of all, I'll say if PBS is recognized as the most quality television network in the country. I think you'd all agree with that, wouldn't you? And if Channel 9 is the #1 watched station on the PBS system, you'd agree with that, wouldn't you? And if Donnybrook is the most popular program on then somebody out there has to know what they're doing. Would you agree? I'll tell you who knows what they're doing. It's you, the people in the audience. I mean, how could Channel 9 possibly be #1? How could Donnybrook be #1 without you? And I should say tens of thousands of people who are watching us every Thursday night. I joked earlier about Andre Rieu. It was my life's ambition to be on his program. Well, let me tell you something. Not in Tuscany, not in Vienna, not in Dresden does Andre Rieu draw the type of crowds that we draw every Thursday night. Right? On your television sets. Now make me a promise. You know Channel 9's slogan is, now more than ever we need you, right? Now more than ever we need each other, right? And I want you to stay tuned to Donnybrook and give Charlie Brennan the greatest welcome he ever had on earth. Starting when?
January 7th, but who's counting?
Thursday, January the 7th. Adios, and God love you all. Wow.
Thank you very much.